Welcome to Oh What channel. If you like the video, please share, like and subscribe.
Hey everyone, we are getting started with Adobe InDesign Masterclass inside the Takeoff College. So, what is Adobe InDesign? Adobe InDesign is a desktop publishing DTP and page layout software application developed by Adobe. So, as you probably know or may not know, Adobe InDesign is a part of the Adobe Creative Cloud software suite. So when we're talking about, for example, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Audition, Adobe Premiere Pro, After Effects, all of these come from the same family. And Adobe InDesign is one of them as well. And Adobe InDesign is the industry standard tool. Industry standard means number one most used and most known tool for creating complex multi-page documents, and is a successor to Adobe PageMaker, because beforehand it used to be Adobe PageMaker, which was very kind of making a lot of noises in the industry, which comes from the exact same company as well. But yeah, as you can see, this is what we have with Adobe InDesign. So in order to install Adobe InDesign, the first thing you need to do is that you need to come to your Google and search for Adobe InDesign, and open the first link. It is most of the times the official Adobe software. And over here, as you can see, we have plenty of plans and pricings. And if you're lucky enough, you may even see sometimes you may even see a free trial or something like that, And well, the software is a paid software and it's offered in plenty of payment options. And we're not going to go through the installation process because, as I said, it's very easy. Like, you just need to specify how you want to use the software. If it's a free trial, then you don't need to pay for it, at least for a period of time. And then whatever kind of, as I said, planning and pricing that you choose, you can then download the software, open up the setup file, and click a couple nexts and install Adobe InDesign successfully. And then we will be ready to go for the next part. So after you have successfully installed Adobe InDesign on your device, you have either use the free trial to install it, or you have bought it from any of the kind of packages that Adobe offers for its softwares. However, that you have got your hands onto this powerful software, you have it installed, right? And by a simple double click, you can open it up. But if you don't have it on your desktop like I do, you can easily search your device, whatever kind of operating system that you're using. You can search your device for Adobe InDesign. And with a simple click, you'll see that this powerful software will be opened for us. So we wait a little bit. Yes, so as you can see, this is what we have over here. So there are huge differences between the previous, the like way older versions of Adobe softwares like InDesign and the newer versions. When it comes to the older ones, you can't see these buttons, for example, and you will face something very different. But if you do have these buttons or you don't, it doesn't matter because we have another way to access them. And we actually do want to access them. As you can see, this is new file and this is open. So these are where we actually get started. But if you don't have these buttons, you can also always come to File, New, and as you can see, New Document, New Book, and New Library, and File Open, as you can see. Both of these are available. And we also have keyboard shortcuts to them, right? So by pressing Ctrl N on your keyboard, you will be able to create a new document. And by pressing Ctrl O on your keyboard, you'll be able to open a file, or an existing project in your software. But whatever. So as you saw over here, we are having something very similar to a normal average Adobe software, and you'll see the similarity further on as well, because these actually come from the exact same family, although there are sometimes very different usages to them, right? So InDesign can be very different sometimes with Adobe Photoshop, but you'll see the similarity in their workspace and in their interface. And this is because obviously they come from the same family. And as you saw over here, we have new document and new book. So this is something that we don't see often with Adobe softwares. Most of the times we have new project or new document, right? But here, as you can see, we have different kinds of new. So we have new document, book, and library. So how I want to explain these to you, how I want to explain to you the difference between a document and a book in Adobe InDesign is that, let's say that, for example, you want to use InDesign for a like printed project or something like that, obviously, because this is its primary usage. But let's say that you want to do it with a newspaper, with a magazine, with not many pages, right? Or with a brochure. Is it brochure? What is it? I'm pronouncing it in French, This is something similar to their pronunciation. I don't know the pronunciation with the English, but let's say whatever, like a business card, right? Or a poster. Well, that is obviously a document, right? But whenever that you want to have, let's say, a big kind of printing project, like a big book or something like that, that's also where we come to Adobe InDesign, And InDesign is a very powerful and light software for huge projects. It's very good and optimized. So whenever that we have, let's say, a book in like 500 pages, right? Then, yes, we will go and create a new book, but not now. We'll actually separate those 500 pages into different documents, right? So, for example, we have chapters. So let's say that our book contains 20 chapters. Each of them chapters will be a document, and let's say they will be like 25 pages each, or 30 pages each, whatever. They will be documents, and then after we're done with all of our chapters, we can create a new book and bring all of those documents together, right? So this is the difference that these two have. And we also have a library, which again includes plenty of books. So this is the relationship between these. For now, obviously, we're going to go through a new document, and this is what we are going to have a lot to do with, right? So by clicking on new document, as I said, over here, file, new document, or by pressing Ctrl N on your keyboard, or by pressing on this new file button, whatever path that you choose to go, you will have this new document window opened for you, and this is where the magic happens. So as you can see, we have some recent presets. This is because I have already used the software, right? So for you, it may be empty over here. But as you can see, we do have presets. So we have these tabs over here. We have saved, which is, yes, the Takeoff College guides. This is what I have saved for our books in the Takeoff College. We have print. So we will have paper sizes, as you can see, A4, A5, A3, all those international paper sizes. Letter, legal. We have web presets, because InDesign can be very useful when it comes to designing like UI design and stuff. That's also doable. So as you can see, we have plenty of screen sizes and web sizes over here as well. And we also have mobile. So this can also be useful, Let's say that you're designing the user interface for a mobile application, for a tablet application, All of these presets are available. And each of them that you click, so I click on iPad, as you can see, my settings will change to the very preset that I chose over here. So I come back here and let's say that I want to set these myself. So first of all, we have the project name. This is something common in all Adobe softwares. So this project name is not that important because we can easily change it in the future. When we're saving or when we're exporting, we can set it up again over there, but we can set it up front right now, right? So for example, I can say that my project name is the takeoff book, something like that, right? So afterwards, we have width and height, as you can see. So it's obvious that these are the sizes that we have with our pages and with our papers. We also have units to them. So we have points, picos, inches, millimeters, centimeters, and all of these are available. We even have pixels, right? All of these units are available to us. So I can set it on, let's say, centimeters. So I can give it numbers in that, or millimeters, as you can see. So back to points. As you can see, we have width and height, and we also have orientation. So if we give them these numbers and we want to change the orientation, for example, I come here and click on this one. As you can see, the position of these two numbers will change, and these will replace each other, right? So the number in width will come to height, and the number in height will come to width. And we can set the orientation to our pages, as you can see. We can set the number of pages that we have. This is also changeable in the future. So it doesn't really matter. If you say 1, you can easily scale it up to 20, right? But you can also increase it. We usually don't, right? We also have facing pages. So this one over here is very important. If you keep it checked, facing pages, if you keep it checked, you will have something like a book, right? So in a book, we have facing pages. It's a very important concept, actually. Guys, like if you do have a book near you, bring it and start looking at it. And if you do so, you will see meaningful differences in the margins of the page and in the margin of each site, right? And the reason to that is that when we have facing pages, eventually our printing will become a, let's say, book or a notebook, right? And when that happens, from one side, they will be like sticking together, something like that, right? And when that happens, we have something like a book. And in a book, the inside margins need to be different with the outside margins. So as you can see, we also have them over here, right? So as you can see, inside margins, inside margins, which are very important. As you can see, we have top, we have bottom, and we have inside and outside margins when you have facing pages, right? So inside it's actually understandable, I think, right? And the outside margin, as you can see, is way, way less and way lower, right? Because the inside is going to be sticked together, something like that, like a book. But if you uncheck this, you won't have facing pages. And this is for posters, right? This is for a business card. This is for a single page magazine, a single page newspaper, whatever that is not a book, or in the style of a book. So we also have facing pages. It's very important. As you can see, when I uncheck it, my margins will change to top, bottom, left, and right. But if I check it, my margins will change to top, bottom, inside, and outside, right? So yes, this is also what we have. I keep it checked for now because I want to teach you some things with working on a book right now for our test project. What else do we have? We have start at, This can also be important. Sometimes you don't want to start at 1. Let's say that you want to start at page 5. And all of them first 4 pages are, for example, designed somewhere else. So you have designed your first 5 pages in Photoshop and you want to start from 6, right? And then you want to print and stick them all together. And this is very important. Why? Because we can add, later on you'll see, that we can add page numbers, auto-generated page numbers to InDesign. That's a very powerful and useful kind of thing. And when we do that, this is the number that auto-generated page numbers of us will start from, right? So this is why it's important. We also have columns. So this is obvious. And we have column gutter. This is obvious. Like sometimes you have columns where, for example, in newspapers, right? So when it comes to printed graphic design, I've been doing that for a long time. You know, I was working on a printed advertisement agency for a very, very long period of time. And in printing, a lot of the times, for example, we have newspapers. And newspapers, if you pay enough attention to them, you'll see that they have columns inside of them, right? So there's a paper and there's like 4 columns in it. So this is settable from here. I keep it on 1, but if you, for example, set it to 4, you will have a project eventually with 4 columns of content in it, you know? And sometimes that's useful. But for now, it is actually not. So I set it back to 1. We also have column gutter, which is meaningless when we have a single column. But when we have 2, this gutter is the space, the white space between those columns, right? Yeah. So I set it back to 1. And we have margins. So these are very important, as you can see. And that's pretty much all. So when it comes to margins, we also have this link button over here. If I check it, hold on. Yeah. If I keep it linked, then, for example, when I increase the top margin, the rest will change with it as well. But if I unlink this, you'll see that I increase the top margin and decrease the top margin and nothing changes in the other ones, right? So this is also settable. And what else do we have? Yes, I assume that we're done with it. So I press create. I press create and wait for my first ever project, first ever document to be created. And this is our first impression ever with the software, right? So this is, as you can see, what I have. You may be facing something different. So your InDesign may look something like this. This is also very probable, right? So why is that? And what is the difference between these? So inside InDesign, just like any other Adobe software out there, we have workspaces. And they're a very important concept. So workspaces are visible if you come to Window, Workspace, and as you can see, we have a list of them: advanced, book, digital, publishing, etc. Right? And as you probably know, if you already have a background and a previous experience with other Adobe softwares, inside Adobe softwares, we have windows and we have panels. And these panels are very important. These panels actually moderate and control 80% of the work that we do, right? And 80% of it is dependent to these. And we also have tools. So these two are basically everything. We have tools and we have panels, and panels and tools are everything, right? And this everything can be changed. So for example, I can come here, click and drag these properties out, and I can stick it, for example, over here in a second column, right? Or I can close it and have it like this. Or I can click and drag and have it like this. And whenever that I click this, properties is open, right? Or I can come to Window and click on Layers. And Layers is added now, as you can see, right? So I can drag and bring layers and stick it to my left, right? So everything, pretty much everything is doable with workspaces. And we also have a set of presets over here. And as you can see, I'm on Essentials. So I click on Reset Essentials. This is how we can go back to how our workspace was at the beginning. So I reset my workspace. Yep. And by coming here, we also can see plenty of things. So I prefer to keep it on Essentials Classic. And I want you guys to do that as well. The reason to that is this top bar over here, right? So in the new kind of workspace, the new default of InDesign, this top bar is gone. And there's no limitations with that because we can do pretty much everything that we do with the top bar with our properties over here, right? We can do that. But I want you guys to have it on your top. And I think it's just my personal view that having this top bar over here will help a lot, right? And that's my preference. So I want you guys to do that as well. And if you're coming with me inside this course, I want you to have your workspace set to Essentials Classic. I also come and reset it to how it was at the beginning to make sure that everything is okay, right? Perfect. And this is the interface that we're eventually having over here. So as you can see over here, we have a pretty familiar, as I said, interface. We have this top bar, which allows us to have certain settings for our elements and stuff. We have these menus and these tabs, which are very important a lot of the times and give us plenty of abilities. We have our tools over here, and we have our panels on the right. And in this middle, as you can see, we have our project. We have a page, a paper-like thing. As you can see over here we have a way bigger kind of margin. So this is called margin. This white space between our content frame and the edge of our paper. This is called margin. So as you can see here, we have a way wider margin on our left than our right. And this is the inside-outside thing I just talked about, So we have facing pages. And if I come here, just don't care what I'm doing because I'm going to explain all of these to you. But if I come here and create new pages, right, as you can see, so this is our first page, which is like this. So you open up a book, imagine that. And this is our inside margin. This is our outside margin. So if we go to page 2, as you can see, this is the back of our previous page, And this is again our inside margin. This is our outside margin. Again, in page 3, this is our inside. This is our outside. I assume and I hope that you have understood what I mean when it comes to facing pages and when it comes to creating books and stuff, in Adobe InDesign. But for now, I just delete these two and come back to this very single page that we had. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the navigation tools that we have over here. So navigation includes zooming, and kind of exploring what you have in your project. So as you can see over here, we have it set to like the entire of our frame, right? So we can see everything about this page over here, but we can zoom in and zoom out, obviously. So we have this zoom tool over here. And if I click on it, as you can see, I can click and I will zoom in, right? And I can also, in order to zoom out, I can press Alt while I have this zoom tool selected. I can press Alt and click, and I'll be able to zoom out, as you can see, right? And if I zoom in a little bit, as you can see, I have these two handles. I have these two handles on my right and I'm in my bottom that I can navigate inside my project with them, and these are available. And we also have zoom, as you saw. But there are plenty of other ways to zoom, right? And those are the ways that I mostly use, right? So a lot of the times when you're more of a professional and when your work speeds up, you don't just come to zoom tool and select it and click and, navigate like that. But what you do instead is using shortcuts, right? But I'm going to go through them a little bit later. What I want to talk about now is that, yes, we have zoom in and we have these handles, but we also have this hand tool over here for when we have zoomed in or out and we want to navigate. So if I click on hand tool, we also have the shortcut H to it, as you can see. And the shortcut to zoom was Z. So if I click on the hand tool and I click and drag, as you can see, this is how I can navigate in my project, right? But there's also other ways to access these navigation tools. So for example, another way to zoom in or zoom out is pressing Ctrl+ for zooming in and Ctrl- on your keyboard for zooming out, Ctrl+ for zooming in and Ctrl- for zooming out. Or you can, for example, press Alt on your keyboard and use your scroll bar on your mouse, right? So if I press Alt and scroll, as you can see, if I scroll up, I will zoom in. If I scroll down, I will zoom out, with my mouse. So this is another shortcut. And for the hand tool, a lot of the times we don't want it permanently, we just want a temporary hand tool that we can use and then we can move on, right? So we want to navigate quickly. We can access the temporary hand tool by pressing spacebar on our keyboard. And if I press spacebar, as you can see, as long as you hold your click, and as long as you hold the button on your keyboard, you will have hand tool. But the moment that you leave it, you'll be back to the very tool that you're working with. So here it's selection tool, as you can see. Yep. So spacebar is also another kind of shortcut, a temporary shortcut to the hand tool. And this is pretty much all that we have with navigation tools. So the first thing that I want to go through when it comes to Adobe InDesign over here is texts, because they're very important, When it comes to InDesign projects, a lot of the times they are either books or, let's say, business cards, magazines, kind of newspapers, whatever that they are. We are working with plenty of texts, and they are very important to us over here. So if I zoom back a little bit, and yep, so the very tool that we're going to be working with when we have something to do with texts is this tool over here, type tool, as you can see. And the letter T is the shortcut to it. If I click and hold my click, as you can see, we also have a type on a path tool that I'm going to go through a little bit further. But for now, we have type tool. And the moment that I choose it, as you can see, all of the settings up here will change. And we have a lot to do with these settings over here. So with type tool, I can either click somewhere, like I can come here and click even outside of my margins, right? But as you can see, nothing happens. When we click and type, this is for Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. Inside InDesign, we can't just click and type because we need to have a frame for every kind of text that we have over here, right? So we do have a default frame over here, as you can see, and it is settable when you create your new document. Over here, you can, primary text frame. If I uncheck it and click create, I won't have it, right? So over here, as you can see, if I click, nothing happens. But in this case, when I click, I can start typing like Microsoft Word, right? But over here, I can't do it because I don't have that primary text frame of mine. And as you can see, this exists, but we also can click and drag for ourselves outside of this text frame and type something like a title, right? So let's say whatever, this is my text. But as you can see, we always have areas for our text, and we need to click and drag in order to specify those areas. Yeah, so back to selection tool, as you can see, I can even move this and place it over here. But when we do have a text frame, which is mostly for books and same stuff, the text frame is mostly, most of the times, enough for us, you know? So we come here, click, and for example, say chapter 1 and welcome, right? So I press enter. As you can see, I'm typing just like Microsoft Word. So if you're not familiar with that, Microsoft Word is a very basic tool, you know, that I would be kind of surprised that you're here with Adobe InDesign if you don't know Microsoft Word. But that's something very similar to this, you know, you just click and type and go ahead and everything is fine. And wherever that you click, you'll be able to continue your typing. So I say chapter 1, welcome. And I start with welcome. Like, let's say, I'm Nima Hasemi, and this is my book. So I want to welcome you guys to this writing of mine, and hope that you have just random things. You have quality time with this, let's say, book, whatever, right? So as you can see, we have text, and we have paragraphs, we have a title, everything. And this text can be formatted. This text can be edited. And in order to add our editings, first we need to make a selection of the very part that we need to edit, right? So this is pretty obvious. So for example, if I want to change the size to this line only, this chapter 1 line, I need to select it. And how I select it is by choosing this type tool and making sure that we're on it. And by clicking and dragging, I can select a text, right? And this is very important. So I make my selection, and up here, as you can see, we have a very easy work to do. We have everything. But I don't want to go through that from here because, as I just told you with the workspaces, the new InDesign, the new Essentials kind of workspace, does not have these, as you can see. So this is the new InDesign and how it looks like. And because of that, I want to do all the settings from their very root. And the root is the panels. So this is why I really don't want to attend this topper over here, but this is accessible. And as you can see, it's very to understand. So we have alignment over here, right? Or we have font family over here. But I want to do that from the very root. And where is the root? For texts, we have plenty of panels. And the first one that we're going to go through is the character panel. So we're coming to window, and we should be searching for type and tables, character, right? Or by pressing Ctrl T, it will be accessible, as you can see. So if I click on character, as you can see, it will be opened for me. And I can even bring it and stick it down here, right? And nope. Let's say open it up from here. Yeah. So this is character. As you can see over here, we can change the font family to our text, for example. So if I can open this drop down and easily search for whatever that I want to have, right? Font families that are installed on my computer. So for example, I can say Playfair display. So as you can see, we also have different types and different forms of each font family. We have Playfair display black, bold, and italic, and regular. And black italic and bold italic, you know. all of these are selectable. So I set it on bold. And as you can see, this is also changeable from here. So when we set a font family, we can change the style of it over here. The available styles that are installed on our computer will be accessible. And I can set it to regular, as you can see, bold, whatever. Yeah. So over here, as you can see, we have text size or font size. And this is very important, obviously. So I can open this up and set it to 24 points, for example, right? So as you can see, it will be way bigger. And what else do we have? Let me select this. What else do we have? We have, let's say, line spacing. So this can be very important, right? So I can open this up and set it to 72, but nothing changes because I am only setting and applying my changes to a single line, right? But if I press Ctrl Z, and let's say this time I select this paragraph over here. So if I come here and change the line spacing, as you can see, it will change. I set it to 48, and now they have a lot of like white space in their between, right? The lines. So I press Ctrl Z, and yep, this is line spacing, as you can see. We also have letter spacing. If I'm right, yep, this is letter spacing. This is also something very beautiful sometimes, you know, sometimes, not everywhere. But sometimes this can be like a text effect or something like that, right? So you can set it up over here. So let's say that, for example, I click and drag here and I say www.thetakeoffcollege.com and I type it all in capitals, right? Capital letters. And I come here to character. I change the font family, let's say. And I also change the letter spacing. So as you can see, sometimes it can be beautiful, you know? I even make it smaller. Yep. This is what we have, as you can see, right? So this is what we have with letter spacing. And we also have scale somehow. So as you can see, we can scale these in the like width, you know? And we can set it in, as you can see, percentage. This is doable. We can also do it the other way. So we can change the height scale, you know. It will make our text deforme, you know, but sometimes it can be again known as a kind of text effect. Not everywhere, right? So most of the times it will make your text just ugly, unclean and stuff. But sometimes it can be an effect, you know, as you can see. Yeah. So these are also available. What else do we have? We can increase the amount and the angle of our text being italic, right? So this is very professional, isn't it? We can set a certain angle. So I say 45 kind of degree. As you can see, this is the amount of italicization. What is it? Yep, our text will become italic in this kind of form and format. And what else do we have? We have language, as you can see. So setting our language to the correct language and the accurate one that we're actually using will help us a lot, right? Will help us a lot in many terms and in many forms. So if you're, for example, working in French, I absolutely suggest you to come here and change it to French. This will help you a lot. Yeah. So this is basically all we have with character. But there's certainly one thing that I need to mention over here. Inside character, if you don't have everything that I have, so for example, you don't have these scales or you don't have language, this is because in certain panels, in some of these windows and panels, we have options, and these options can be hidden or like shown, you know. These are somehow extra options or things like that. So if you can't see these, right, you can always come to these three lines, and as you can see, I can hide options. So these will go, these will disappear. And again, I can come here and click on show options, right? So this is a toggle kind of thing for these extra options that we have. And this is something very common with some of the panels and windows inside Adobe InDesign. So this is also something that I wanted to mention over here. And further on, whenever that I used a certain panel that looked different with what you have, I would like you to come here and check the hide or show options option in order to get the maximum out of this tutorial. The next text related panel that we have and I want to go through is paragraph. So that one is also very important. By coming to again window, type and tables, and this time paragraph, or pressing Control Alt T, right? Control Alt T. So if I click on it, this paragraph panel will be opened for me. So as you can see, this also has important settings. They look important. So I stick it to the bottom of this character over here, and it will be added over here, as you can see. So with paragraph, we have plenty of important things. First, we have alignment, right? So text alignment is very important, isn't it? In paragraph, we can align our text to center. We can align it to right, or we can align it to left. All are possible, right? The next alignment options that we have is justification, right? So we can justify, this is somehow meaningless for a single line of text. So I come and select this part, this paragraph of mine. And over here, we can justify everything. And the last line, we will be aligned to left, right? I click, as you can see, everything is justified. The last line is aligned to left. But this one will align the last line to center, as you can see. And this one will align the last line to right. And this one says that the last line doesn't exist, right? So if I click this, as you can see, there is no last line, And yeah, this is the justification options that we have as well. And what else do we have? We have align towards spine. And we have it for both left and right. Align towards spine and align away from spine, right? And these are available as well. The next thing that we can set in the paragraph panel is indent, right? So indent is basically the kind of white space and the distance and the gap between your text and the edge of your frame, right? So as you can see, the left indent and the right indent, these are the two, are set to 0. Hold on. We also have options shown over here. Yeah, I need to mention it every time. Yeah, so we have these indents, as you can see, set to 0. We have the left indent. If you hover it, you'll see the name. And we have the right indent. So if I increase the left indent, you can see the difference, right? It's obvious. And if I increase the right indent, you can again see the difference. It's obvious. Yeah. So I set them back to 0. We also have first line left indent and first line right indent. So these can be very important sometimes as well, So sometimes inside your book or inside your project, you want the first line of your paragraphs, of each paragraph, to have a certain kind of distance from your frame, but you want that to be for the first lines only, right? So let's say that I copy this, I select it, I press Ctrl C, and I paste it times and times and times. Yeah, so now we have multiple paragraphs. So if I select all and come here, and I increase the first line indent, as you can see, the first line of all of my paragraphs will change, right? So we'll have a certain kind of space and distance from the frame of our text. And we also have it from right for the very first lines only, right? So if I increase it, you'll see the difference at some point. No, sorry, this is last line right indent, right? Yeah. So if I set it, if I justify it, for example, right? So you can see that the last line, we're having an indent from right. So we don't want to exceed, we don't want our last line to exceed this kind of space, you know. These two are possible as well. So I set them back to 0. From now on, these are all extra options. Hold on. Yeah. It looks weird, but whatever. From now on, these are extra options. So if you can't see them, you need to come here and click on, yeah. If you see something like this, you need to come here and click on show options. And over here, as you can see, we have space before. So this is the space before each paragraph. So the top margin of each paragraph, something like that. We have space after. Hold on. Yeah, this is space after. And we have, what is it? It is space between paragraphs using the same style. So for example, these 5 paragraphs are using the same style. Why? Because I have selected them and I'm applying my changes to. And we can also add certain spaces for these kind of paragraphs, right? So the ignore option will ignore the same style or different style thing. But if you open this up and set something, it will be set for paragraphs which are facing other paragraphs with their same style, you know, and they're near each other. So this kind of space will be applied to them. We also have drop cap number. Yeah. So this is again very cool. And number of lines and drop cap 1 or more characters. Yeah. So this is very cool. In a lot of the books and publishings and publications, you have probably seen this, right? That, for example, at the beginning of the chapter, there's a paragraph. So they come and select it. And by increasing the, drop cap number of lines. Yeah. By increasing this to 1, 2. Yeah. As you can see, we will have a capitalized kind of first letter, right? So this is possible. And we can specify the number of these letters by coming to this part over here and increasing this number. So if I set it to 2, I and this kind of thing over here will be capitalized. If I increase it to 3, yeah, I'm will be big. If I increase it to 4, the space 5, N. Yeah, as you can see, this is how we can capitalize the beginning of our text. This is also very useful and very beautiful sometimes. And what else do we have? We have shading. So shading will basically work like a highlight or something, right? This shading thing over here will eventually add up a highlighted kind of mode to our entire paragraph, right? So I can even change the color, as you can see, and this is changeable easily. And we also have borders. So these are all related to our paragraphs, as you can see, because we are in the paragraph panel. We have borders. We can change the color to our borders. Yep. And I uncheck this as well. So hyphenation, I assume that was, have you ever saw that, like, you have this word over here. So for example, you say procrastination, right? So I have this long word over here. And when you justify it, why can't I just apply it easily to show you guys? So we have this procrastination, this word over here. And in my justification, if I click hyphenate, as you can see, we have this hyphen added over here. This is very common, right? And we have pro and a hyphen, and this hyphen means that we have the rest of our word coming. So we have procrastination, right? But if you uncheck this, it will not hyphenate at all, So as you can see, it will add a lot of white space over here, although that it will be way more ugly, but it will not hyphenate at all, right? So this is hyphenation. And this is pretty much all that we have with this paragraph panel for our texts and typography in Adobe InDesign. The next panels that I want to go through when it comes to texts are basically the same, right? But the functionality of them is very different. So we had character and we had paragraph, and we went through these two completely. But now we have character style and we have paragraph style, These are different panels. So if I come to window and over here in styles, I think, styles, and we have character style. You can also access it with Shift F11. And we have paragraph styles, which is accessible through F11, So I click both of them. As you can see, we have character styles over here. This is character styles, this is paragraph styles, right? And both of them are available over here. I can say that paragraph style is a way more complete option, and paragraph style includes character styles, but character styles is a little bit more specific. But what are they? I want to go through that. Let's say that I changed everything that I wanted, right? So I changed the font size, the font family, the let's say the style of my font, so it's bold now, and all of them settings. I have applied all of them settings. But when it comes to a book, especially, I make this example because these are all tools that make Adobe InDesign perfect for our large publishing projects, like a book, like a big book, right? So when it comes to a book, a lot of the times, consistency is very important. Consistency, remember the word? Consistency in design. So what does that mean? That means that I want all of my chapter titles to look exactly the same, right? So it doesn't matter if I have 20 chapters, it doesn't matter if I have 50 chapters, I want all of the titles to look exactly the same, right? Or when I'm having a book, for example, I want all of my paragraphs in all of my pages, in all of my book, the entire of my book, I want them to look exactly the same. I want them to have the same distances, the same spaces between them, the same settings. I want all of that. So this is actually where character styles and paragraph styles come to the table, and they're very powerful options and very useful tools that we're actually just going to go through. So let's start with character styles, for example. Over here, as you can see, inside this panel, I have none, and down here, I have this plus button, which is for creating a new style. This is what we have a lot to do with. And we also have style groups, but I don't want to go through that. That's also doable. So you have plenty of styles, and you have like 10 heading styles, so you can group them as heading styles, header styles, title styles, whatever. By clicking on this new style button, as you can see, a new style is added, right? So nothing complicated. But from now on, this is where it actually gets interesting. I come to basic character formats. This is the part where it gets the most interesting. So I can set a font family to it. Let's say Australia, this thing over here, right? and we have font style, we have size. So if they're empty like this, it won't make any changes, if that makes sense, right? So let me leave these empty and click OK. So we have no certain size and no no size, right? We just have a font family. If I click OK, as you can see, this will change, right? But if I come here and change this Nima Qasemi's font size, right? So I select it and I increase its font size to 36. And if I choose this normal paragraph, as you can see, it does not change the font size. It has nothing to do with the font size, because if I double click, font size is empty over here, right? But if I set something to it, I say 14, for example, and press OK. And now I select this Nima Qasemi over here and I click on normal paragraph. As you can see, the font size will change as well, right? So I double click. I'd better change it to normal character, because it's a character style, or whatever, just for no confusion stuff. As you can see, we have kerning, we have case, so we can set it to all caps, right? If I press OK and I select Nima Qasemi and I change it to normal character, as you can see, all of them will be capital. So the font is a little bit weird, but if I change the font family, Calibri, for example, as you can see, yeah, all of them will be capitalized. And the cool part about character styles is that if you create a style and you set it to all of your texts, globally, so the entire of your, let's say, in 50 plus places, you have applied your style, right? And you decide that you want to change the font family to all of them. You only need to come here, double click, you change the font family, and it will be applied to all of them, as you can see. So this is the beautiful part about this, right? So this is not only character formats. As you can see, we have advanced formatting, horizontal scale, vertical scale. These are all the exact settings that we just went through in character, right? These are all these. Just that here we have icons, but in character settings, here we have text. But these are all the same, right? We have language, everything. We have character colors. So this is again very important. Here we come across color groups that I'm going to cover a little bit further on, but we can have our colors, we can, let's say that I can come here and can I do anything, any changes and stuff? It doesn't seem like it, but whatever. And we also have this preview over here. So if you check it, whatever change that you make over here will be lively applied, and you can see that live over here. We have open type. So as you can see, these are all settings, right? Underline options. So you can check the underline on and increase the weight of it. So I say 2 points. As you can see, yeah, I can change the type of it, so I can have a Japanese dots underline. As you can see, we have offset, all of these are settable. And as you can see, it applies to all of these kind of parts that we've selected. We have strike through, we have export tagging, all of these, as you can see. From here, we can export our character style in order to import it somewhere else, right? So as you can see, this is in CSS codes. CSS is also very popular and useful, but this is for web design and web development, but we do have a separate course. I have taught that as well, the CSS masterclass inside the Takeoff College. That's also doable, but whatever. Over here, as you can see, we have HTML and CSS exporting options and whatever. By clicking OK, as you saw, this is what a character style is, And as you just saw, this is very powerful, very important, and a lot of the times very useful. So we also have it with paragraph, you know, but paragraph styles is a little bit wider, you know. So if I double click, these are all set to, yeah. If I double click, as you can see, we have plenty of more options over here, right? So we have paragraph style options, the window, and we have plenty of extra things over here. But these are not changeable, as you can see, because we are trying to change the basic paragraph. This is wrong, right? So if you want to create your own paragraph style, again, we have this plus button over here, right? And if I click it, just like what we have with character styles. So if I come here and double click on it, as you can see, so we have the style name here, as you see, changeable, you know, because it was not changeable when we double clicked on basic paragraph. That's the default style, you know, but it's changeable. I can set it to normal paragraph, for example, or any other kind of preferred name that I have. We have, again, basic. As you can see, we have all the character settings plus some extra things, you know, and all of those extra things are actually, again, the very things that we covered inside paragraph panel, right? So we have, as you see, paragraph border, you know, we just went through it completely inside paragraph. So if I check it, as you can see, it will add them. I can change the color, the type, you know, all of these are settable over here. Hyphenation, you know, this is what we have with paragraph. And as you can see, this is just all that we have, but a little bit deeper, you know, and with extra kind of flexibilities over here. And you can easily come here and set all the settings that you want, and then you'll have a paragraph style. And if you select a paragraph by clicking on this, your paragraph will be styled like that, right? So let me press Control A. Control A will select the entire of my text, and I set it all to basic paragraph, and I come to character style and set it to none. So as you can see, we are back to where we were. And right now I can also come here and remove these styles by clicking this delete button. Also delete this one, this paragraph style. And this is basically all that we have with texts and typography inside InDesign. We have character, paragraph, settings, and we have paragraph styles and character styles. We just went through them completely. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is Adobe InDesign shapes, you know. So over here, as you can see, we have this rectangle tool, you know, which is also accessible with the letter M from your keyboard. So if you press M, it will be selected. But if I click and hold my click, you'll see that we also have ellipse tool, right? Or we have polygon tool, you know, and by pressing L, for example, I can access ellipse. Or with M, I can access rectangle tool. So if I click on it and I click and drag, as you can see, I will be able to draw a rectangle as easy as that, you know. But there are settings to this rectangle or shape, whatever it is. There are settings to it, right? So for example, I can come here and double click and choose a color over here, and it will be applied to my shape. As easy as that. Over here, right? And as you can see, it's very weird. It's like limited colors and stuff. You can set it to H. So this H will fix everything, you know. You'll have your complete color palette and you can select from here. And we also have a color panel for this purpose, right? So we can always come to Window and color, right? So if I click on it, as you can see, I can easily set my color, you know. I can click on this stroke option over here and I can set the color to my stroke. So as you can see, we only have black and white, but I can come here and click HSB, right? So as you can see, I will have all the colors in the world, you know, and I can set it to my stroke as well. And what else do we have? Inside window, color. Another panel that we have is gradient. So gradient, as the name says, is for gradients. So gradients can be applied to our shapes, you know, and they are doable as well. So whenever that I have a shape or a text, whatever, you know, gradients can be applied. So let's say that I have an ellipse. Again, we have this color settings and all of that. I can come here and set. But with this gradient swatch tool, or by pressing G, and by clicking on my element, as you can see, I can also add gradient to my element. And gradients are controllable from this gradient panel that we can access from window, color, gradient, right? And as you can see, it can either be linear or radial. And I can, for example, click on this white. And if I click on it, inside color, I can change its color, as you can see. As beautiful and as easy as that. I can click on this black, and inside color, I can set it to HSB and set it to blue, for example, right? So this is how we basically work with gradient. We also have gradient feather, but this is for text, you know? So gradient feather tool, if I click on a text, for example, let's say I select this, but gradient feather, I click on it. And as you can see, I'll be able to apply it like this to my texts and stuff even, right? But gradient swatch will apply it to, as you can see, my background, you know? So very different kind of workings, you know, and way different things and concepts. But feather, as you can see, also like does some kind of fading from a certain side, right? So this is also another gradient tool that we have over here. But where were we? Gradients and color. And also by coming to window and color and swatches, right? So this is another option, you know? And this swatches thing is also important. So let's say that I come here and let's say, for example, click on this, you know, these are those CMYK basic colors. I click on this and let's see if we can change it over here. Yes, we can still change it over here, but in swatches, we have kind of preset colors, you know, and color groups. So we can click new swatch, you know, and add like a certain color that is very important to us over here. So we can use it a lot by just one click, you know. So I delete it. Yeah. So we have swatches as well. As you can see, this is like a memory of colors, you know. So you can come here and let's say that you have a color for your brand. Your logo has a certain color. So you copy the color code and create a new swatch. And by double clicking on it, as you can see, I can set to HSB, for example, and give it the color code over here, right? And eventually I will have my color added over here. And whenever that I come here and select the text, for example, I can click this color and it will be applied, right? But this is for the background. Hold on. I select the text and this is applied, as you can see, right? So this is how we basically work with colors. So colors in general is something that I wanted to talk about in this regard of and excluding shapes. I wanted to talk about colors a little bit. And these three panels, as you saw, color, gradient, and swatches, are color related options that we have. And all of them are applicable to our shapes as well, you know. So shapes were what we were talking about. So I close these. We also have certain, like a very specific panel for stroke, right? So we're coming to window and stroke, or by pressing F10 on our keyboard. As you can see, we have a lot of settings over here. So I can, yep. So you may see something like this with your stroke, only a weight, but you can come here, click show options. And over here, as you can see, we have plenty of settings for our strokes, you know, and it's very similar to what we had with the stroke panel in Adobe Illustrator, if you're familiar with that. We also covered that in the Adobe Illustrator Masterclass of our courses. But whatever, over here, as you can see, we have stroke, and there are very important settings to our strokes. So here, let me change my stroke color by double clicking here because I want it to be different, right? Or let me change my fill color actually. Yeah. And my stroke, make my fill a little bit lighter. Yeah. So with this stroke thing, we have a weight over here, as you can see, and this is settable in numbers or with these two increase and decrease buttons over here, as you can see. So I decreased it to 0 and the color was gone. Yeah. But yes, as you can see, we have weight, we have cap. So this is for lines. This is meaningful for lines because we also have lines over here. Let me actually go through that. So we have this line tool, and if I click and drag, as you can see, lines are only strokes, right? And if I increase the weight of my line and I change my cap to rounded, for example, you can see the difference in a line very well, right? So this is the caps. And I come back to my shape. We also have join, you know, so this is the edges. This is again important. So we can make the edges round. This is not converting our shape into a rounded rectangle. This is not that, right? So this is not rounding the edges of our shape, but this is having rounded strokes, you know. This is very different because the roundness is very different. We also can have these bevel joints, you know, it will be sharp and like this, you know. This is also doable. We have a line stroke, so this is either so we have a stroke and we have a shape, and this stroke is either in the exact center of our edge, you know, or our edge is in the exact center of our stroke, or our stroke can be an inner stroke like this, right? Or we can have an outer stroke like this, you know. So this is the relationship between our stroke and the edges of our shape. We also have type. So this is obvious, you know. We have all these kind of styles that we can apply to our stroke. We also have start and end, you know. This is, again, more meaningful when we have a line, right? So this line over here, I set this bar to it, as you can see, you know. Or some kind of an arrow, something like that, you know. And we also have end, so these are settable differently and separately, right? We also have scale to the end shape and start shape, so I can make this, for example, way smaller, you know. And these are in percentage. And we also have align, as you can see. This is again where this start or end visual happens to be, you know, at the exact sharp point that your line ends, you know, or in the center of it, something like what we have with a line stroke thing, right? And that's all. That's pretty much all that we have with strokes. When we're talking about shapes, I would better also mention selection tool and direct selection tool and the difference between them, right? So when you open Adobe InDesign up, you see that we have the selection tool that we use all the time and is selected all the time, you know, and we use it to scale things, you know, resize things. We use it to move things around. We use it a lot, right? But we also have this direct selection tool and this kind of white selection tool. And a lot of the times people have this myth in their head that what is the difference between these two? And the difference is actually visible when we have shapes, right? Or when we have vector paths and things like that. So for example, if I have this shape, this rectangle over here, and I come and use this direct selection tool, right? And I click on the corner of it. right? And I move it. Hold on, yeah. Sorry. This corner, and I move it. Yeah, this is it. So I move this. As you can see, I can do something like this, right? So I can deform my paths, and I can have a way wider control over them using this direct selection tool over here. While using selection tool, I can't do these, right? And this is what we also had in Adobe Illustrator, right? So there are a lot of similarities. In Adobe Illustrator as well, we have two selection tools, a simple selection tool and a direct selection tool. And this is the difference between them, right? Or on this ellipse, for example, as you can see, we have edges, and we can control these curves and stuff using this direct selection tool very easily, right? And this is actually the difference between selection tool and direct selection tool in Adobe InDesign. We also have other vector graphic kind of tools inside this powerful software. For example, we have pen, and a lot of the times these may be very useful, you know. So we have pen. Using pen, you can click and click and click, you know, as you can see, click, and it can create shapes as easy as that. One time you can click and drag, right? And we have curves, as you can see, right? And this is basically what we have with the pen tool. This pen tool also, if you click and hold your click on it, as you can see, has other path managing and path controlling tools like add anchor point tool. I can add an anchor point over here, for example. Let's say on this. First I need to select. And on this shape, for example, I click, you know, and using this tool, I click, and as you can see, an anchor point is created. And using the direct selection tool now, I can easily move this around again, right? So let me zoom in. Yeah. Sorry, sometimes it's a little bit disturbing, as you can see, but yeah, as easy as that, I can move it around. And using these kind of sub tools to the pen tool, we have delete anchor point as well, right? So using this, I can click and an anchor point will be deleted, right? And we also have convert direction point tool, you know. This will be for like adding curves. Let me select this. Yep. If I click, yep, as you can see, adding kind of curves. So you can click on an edge, you know, and you can drag it. And using this tool, you can convert it to a curve, something like this, right? So we have all of these path controlling tools, and these will provide us with the exact vector shapes that we had with this line tool, for example, right? Or with these shape tools. And this is basically what we have with pen. We also have pencil. So pencil is very similar to the brush that we had in Photoshop and stuff, right? So over here, as you can see, we have pencil. If I right click, we have smooth tool and erase tool as well, right? So if I use the pencil and click and drag, as you can see, I can easily draw using this, right? And they also have their settings. So if I come to stroke, they have their weight and they have all of their settings. So if you have any of these kind of draw boards that some graphic designers have, you can use this in order to apply some of your graphic kind of visions and ambitions that you have for your project, right? So this pen tool is also available, and there's not much to it. It actually provides you with a path, just like the pen tool. It provides you with a path, and you can change the stroke settings to it from the stroke panel and change the color to it over here. And this is again basically all that we have with these visual creation tools and creative tools inside Adobe InDesign. The next things that we have are effects, right? So let's say that we have a certain text and we want to add some kind of a shadow to it, a drop shadow. So how do we do that? This is also possible in InDesign because it's a very powerful tool. You know, nothing is impossible with InDesign. So first of all, as always, we select the text, and then coming to window, we do have a panel, a very important panel called effects, right? And there's a shortcut to it, as you can see, Control Shift F10. So if I click it, as you can see, we have effects, right? But on this selection, it is not allowed. I don't know why. But if I deselect, yeah. So let's say that we have this shape over here and we want to add a shadow to it. So we select this shape, and inside this effects panel, we have certain settings to it, right? So we have opacity changeable over here. So this is basically how we access elements opacity in InDesign through effects. And I can set it to 50%, for example. And as you can see, yeah, it will be transparent like that. We also have blending mode. So this is basically how this element of us interacts with the elements behind or above it, right? Something like that. Behind it is better, right? So we have multiply, for example. Let's say that I have normal. This is normal. This is normal. But let's say that I have screen. This is screen, for example, right? So these are blending modes. Overlay, right? Hard light, color burn, you know, all of these kind of blending modes that are available out here. We can change the opacity to stroke only, you know. We can come here, click on stroke and change the opacity to it. We can change the opacity to fill only by clicking on it, right? And this is the exciting part. We can add effects, right? So we can come on this FX over here. If I click, as you can see, we have certain effects available, like drop shadow, for example. So if I click it, as you can see, the effects window will be opened for me, and this is very important for us, right? So for this element, let's say that I want to have a drop shadow. And in what angle? Why isn't it visible? Let me set it to normal. Because preview is not checked, right? So I come back, drop shadow. If we check the preview, yeah, you can see the shadow that we have over here. So we can change the settings to it. We have opacity, as you can see. We have blending mode of our shadow. We have the offset, the X offset and Y offset. We have the angle to our shadow, just like this. We have all of these, you know, all of these are settable. And this is how easy we can add drop shadow, for example, to our elements in Adobe InDesign, right? But these effects are a lot, you know. I can again come here and click inner shadow, for example, right? So this is a different kind of shadow, as you can see inside my element. I can set it. We have outer glow. So glow is different with shadow, you know. Glow is some kind of a shine effect or something like that. We have inner glow. We have bevel. So bevel is for making it somehow 3D, something like this. So let me come to bevel to show you that. Yeah, as you can see, this is how it works. We have outer bevel or inner bevel. We have the size of our bevel, as you can see. All of these are settable. We have satin. you know. I don't want to go through them one by one. Feathers are also available. We have basic feather, directional feather, gradient feather, you know. All of these are available, and you can go through them one by one in order to see what they have. There's nothing really special or complex that you can't understand, you know. And this is basically all that we have with effects inside Adobe InDesign. The next concept that I want to talk to you about, let me close these first. The next concept that I want to talk to you guys about is layering in Adobe InDesign. And layering is a concept very common in Adobe softwares, right? At least in the graphic design softwares of Adobe. So we have layering in Photoshop, we have layering in Adobe XD, we have layering in Adobe Illustrator, we have layering in Premiere Pro even, in some kind of a term, right? So that's not layering, but that's the timeline that we have, but whatever. So layering is very important to understand. So let's say that we have this shape over here, right? And I give it a feel, let's say H, yeah. I give it a red kind of feel, yeah. So as you can see, we have this shape and our text is behind our shape, right? But we can change this dynamic. How can we do that? By accessing the layers panel. So as you can see, it's available over here, but by coming to window layers, this is the easiest way you can find it, or by pressing F7, right? So if I click on it, as you can see, we have a single layer. And if I open it up, inside that single layer, we have different objects, just like how it worked in Adobe Illustrator. They're very similar, right? So this very element that I've selected is visible with this kind of square that it has, this blue square, and this shows that this is selected. And if I click on this text, for example, again, it will be selected, right? So as you can see, this is the last layer to us. So I can drag this rectangle and bring it all the way down to the back of my text. And as you can see, my text comes ahead of my element, right? So this is basically layering. I don't want to make it hard, but this is how it works. Layers can be in groups, right? So for example, let's say we have this, I move it. We also have this, I move this one as well, but I want to move them together, right? So I want them to be a single object. I want to still be able to make changes individually, but when I move them, for example, I want them to be a single object. So this is where groups come in. I can select this, press Shift on my keyboard, select this, right click, and we have group, or Control G. So if I click on it, as you can see over here, we have a group inside our layers, right? And if I click, I'll be able to move them with each other. Yep, so this is layering and this is grouping in Adobe InDesign. There's not much more to understand and to know, just that whenever that you want something like this, but you have something like this, all you need to do is that you need to come to layers and change the position of these. But there's also keyboard shortcuts, right? So Control and the left bracket on my keyboard, as you can see over here, if I press Control and my like closing bracket, the right bracket, as you can see, it goes up. And with Control and the opening bracket or the left bracket, it goes down, right? Up, down. Every time I press it, it goes one level up, one level down. And by pressing Control Shift, the closing bracket, it will be on top of the world. And by pressing Control Shift, the opening bracket, it will be down in the downest place possible. But whatever, this is basically layering, grouping, and its shortcuts. The next thing that is left is pages. So this is very important. when we're working, especially when we're working with books and same kind of stuff. So we have this pages panel over here, as you can see, but we can also access it from window pages. But this is very important, very important. But why didn't I explain it at the beginning? Because I wanted to explain some other things as well. And I wanted you to first be familiar with those that I just taught, and then I come to pages. As you can see, we have this none thing over here. We have these meaningless things for you, at least. We have a parent, and we have a single page over here, right? So inside these pages, one thing we can do is adding new pages, adding more pages to our project. So how do we do that? Again, by coming to Window, Pages, and by clicking on this plus button. So as you can see, this is page 2. This is page 3. This is page 4, right? So this is how we add pages. How do we remove pages? Again, we come to Pages, but this time we select the very page that we want to remove, and we press this delete selected pages. And by clicking OK, as you can see, my page 4 is gone now. On this very map, you can see it, right? So I called it a map, and it's very true and correct with how it works and how it helps us. It's very similar to a map to our document, right? And as you can see, we can see everything. By double clicking on each page, we can go to that, right? So if I zoom out a little bit, yeah. Let's say that I'm on this page. If I double click on page 1, I will be forwarded to that, right? As easy as that. We have parents. So parent pages are very important concepts. But beforehand, I also want to introduce this page tool for you. Where is it? Page tool, right? Or by pressing Shift P, you can access it. So this page tool is also pretty much the same, right? So using this, you can, let's say, select a page. You can, what can you do? You can move them around, these pages, if you wish, right? You can change the width and height, as you can see. The very things that we set when we were creating our project, you can change them over here using the page tool. And these are the things that you can do. Objects move with page, this is doable. So if I check it on, if I check it and move this page, let's say, this is not movable. We can move like two facing pages related to each other in this case scenario. But whatever, show parent page overlay, all of these, a very basic tool, right? Just to control our pages. This is page tool. And coming back to the pages panel, we have parents. So parents are a very important concept to be familiar with in Adobe InDesign. A lot of the times in your projects, let's say that this website address over here, right? A lot of the times you have a single object or a single text or a single visual that you want to be visible in all of your pages across your document, right? So that happens a lot. And how do you do that? How do you define such thing in Adobe InDesign? By coming to its parent, your document's parent, right? So your document has a parent. It's accessible using this pages panel over here. And if I double click on the parents, as you can see, we have two parents for our left pages and for our right pages, right? So for example, if I double click on my left parent, and I add a shape over here, and I say I want it to be this color, right? And I come back to my project by double clicking on one of my pages. As you can see, this left page of mine doesn't have it. But if I navigate, as you can see, this is visible in this left page of mine, right? These right pages don't have it. And this is not movable. This is not changeable, right? So it has its own place. And the reason to that is that because this is a parent element. So again, if I double click on my parent and I come and place this over here in this between, right? And I double click on our pages. As you can see, it is positioned over here, right? You can see it in all of our pages because this is defined in our parent. So this is the concept of a parent page. This is very useful, very useful. For example, let's say that you want to show your book title in every left page, right? So you want to show the takeoff book. And in your right page, you want to show your author all the time, right? So you can type these in your parent kind of page, and you double click here. As you can see, this is visible. This is visible. The border over here is because of my settings, right? So if I come back to my parent and from paragraph styles, yeah, set it to basic paragraph. And I come back to layers, pages, and I double click here. Yeah, as you can see, I have my author name over here, and we have our book name, author name. So as many pages as I want, if I add over here, like 9 pages, as you can see, in all of them, I will have the contents that I have defined in my parent pages. So this is why parents are very important. They're accessible by double clicking on this A parent thing over here. So I select these extra pages. I click and press shift and click in order to select all and delete. Yeah. I also add these 2 because I need them. So this is what we have over here. The next thing, there may be a question right now for you guys that, for example, you told us the parent kind of page, but how do we add page numbers, right? So they change. They're not the same. Like every single page of us is not number 1, right? So how do you do that? Do you do that manually? Nope. I'm going to explain a little bit further. But for now, I want to go through hyperlinks as well, right? So hyperlinks, guys, look, the export of Adobe InDesign can be images like JPG, PNG, whatever. And those will obviously not have any kind of links involved. But a lot of the times we export PDF from our InDesign, and formats like that, formats like PDF, do have hyperlinks included. So let's say that in a part of your text or book or whatever, your PDF, whatever, you want to have, this also doesn't mean anything when it comes to printing, right? Because on a paper, you can't have a hyperlink. But let's say that you have a button over here, and you also type something in it. I say click me. And I come here, I change its color. I select both and I right click and make them a group. Yep. And as you can see, I have an element over here and I want to change it. I want to make it a hyperlink. So how do I do that? I select my element and I come to type hyperlinks. Where is it? Hyperlinks and cross references. And by clicking new hyperlink, I will be able to specify something over here, right? So I add up my URL. I say I want it to go to https thetakeoffcollege.com. By pressing OK, this is now working, right? How do you know if it's working? You need to export. And you don't know how to export, but I keep it over here because you're about to learn how to export as well. And after we've exported, we'll see that the hyperlink works. It actually does. So again, we also have edit hyperlink. So we can link to a file, an email, a page, a text anchor, a shared destination, or a URL. So URL is the most common. As you can see, we also have a couple appearance and accessibility settings. We can set an alt text or whatever, but we don't want that for now. And this is basically what we have with hyperlinks. The next thing that we can do, and is actually a little bit weird for some of you guys probably, is that we can insert HTML, right? So for those of you who don't know, I mentioned during this very class a couple of times HTML and CSS. But for those of you who don't know, HTML is hypertext markup language, is actually a markup language, and is the skeleton to web, right? So this is about programming and stuff, basic programming and stuff. And if you know HTML, you may do, right? If you know HTML, you can insert HTML codes into InDesign. So this is for them guys who are familiar with HTML. If you are not and you're interested, we do have a separate course on, a separated course inside the Takeoff College called HTML Masterclass, right? But just that, for now, just that you can come to Object, and by clicking Insert HTML, as you can see, this panel, this tab will be open for you, and you can add HTML code. And by clicking OK, as you can see, we'll have an iframe or something like that. And we will have our code over here visible to us, right? So this is also another cool thing. It's very cool for me myself as someone also familiar with programming. What else do we have? Now we're down to special characters. So special characters are very important. Actually, page numbers are a part of that. So let's say that you want a very specific kind of character and you want to add that, but you don't have it on your keyboard normally. So some of them are listed in InDesign inside type, insert special character, right? So here we have symbols, for example, and as you can see, there are always shortcuts to them. So I can add a bullet character. This is addable, as you can see. Wow, right? And we can change it as well. We can change the font size, whatever. These are just like text, right? So we can have that. We can come to type, insert special character, symbols. We can have copyright symbol. This can be very useful sometimes as well. So this is how we add it inside InDesign. Sometimes we have, let's say, ellipses, you know. These are useful kind of characters that are listed over here. Paragraph symbol, you know, they're cool actually. Registered trademark, section symbol, as you can see, all of these are addable throughout type, insert special characters, symbols, you know, trademark symbol, registered trademark symbol, all of that. So let's say that you have a company, it's called the Takeoff College, and you want to say the Takeoff College registered. So you come to type, insert special character, symbols, registered trademark, right? Or type, insert special character, symbols, trademark, TM, right? So all of these are addable as well. And inside our special characters, we can also add page numbers. So this is very cool, right? So first, we need to have a text box in order to add page numbers inside Adobe InDesign. First, we need to have a text box, and inside of it, we change the settings to the preferred style that we want. So I centralize it, I increase the font size, I change the font family and whatever, yeah. And then I can come to type, insert special character, but this time markers, right? And current page number. Or there's also a shortcut, as you can see, by pressing Control-Alt-Shift-N, Control-Alt-Shift-N, you can add it to your project. So this is 2, yeah. And this is not actually added anywhere else because I added it inside a very simple page of mine. But this is not what I should do. What I should do is that I need to come to my parent by double clicking over here. And inside my parent is where I want to add my page numbers, right? So I add one for the left pages, type, insert special character, markers, current page number. It says A, as you can see. And I add one. Let's click, and by pressing Alt, I can click and drag and make a copy out of it. And again, I come here, type, insert special character, markers, current page number for all my right pages, right? And if I come back to my pages, as you can see, I have one, I have two, I have three, and it goes on. So if I add new pages, 4, 5, 6, 7, as easy as that, right? As easy as that. And this is basically how we add page numbers inside Adobe InDesign, dynamic page numbers that actually change automatically. After all, we are down to exporting and saving, right? So saving, what does saving mean? Saving means that you have made your project, you have made all of your changes, and you want to have an exact same version that you're having right now, right? So you want to save this to your computer, and later on you want to come back and do your editings on this very project. So you want to have it editable and available to you. So that's when you actually save. And by coming to File, Save, or Save As, right? So I click Save, for example. This window will be opened for you, and you can come to Desktop, for example, and as you can see, InDesign Document, INDD. InDesign Template is also available, and CS4 is the very old edition and version of it. But InDesign Document, and I press Save. And now if I come to my desktop, as you can see, I have the takeoff book over here, right? And even if I close my InDesign completely, right? So let's say I close it, and I even turn off my computer, and I'm off, right? So I go away, and 2 months later, I'm back. Why isn't it being closed? Hold on. Yeah. So this is 2 months later, I'm back, and I want to make changes to my project. I easily come to the address that I've saved it. For me, it's desktop. And I double click on this file, and you'll see that I have everything saved for me, right? And from there on, wait a little bit. Yeah. From there on, whatever change that I make, if I come to File, Save, it will save it to the very exact file and the very exact address, right? Well, we can also, hold on. Beforehand, as you can see, our InDesign looks weird, right? Hold on. Yeah, so this is loaded completely now. What was I saying? When you make a change and then you come to File, Save again, it will save it to the very exact file again, right? But whenever that you want to save a duplicate out of your project, that's when you come to Save As or Save as a copy, right? Save As is also available, and this is exactly the same, right? And this is pretty much what we have with saving, but exporting is a whole different story. Exporting means that you're done, you're pretty done with your project, and you want to export it. You want to get a final edition out of it, right? So how do you do that? That's also doable very easily. You can come to File, Export. As easy as that, like File, Export. Or by pressing Ctrl E, the export window will be opened for you. And inside the export window, again, just like what we had with saving, you go and find the address that you're looking for. And we have types, right? So whenever that we want to save images, we can choose JPEG, JPG, or PNG over here, right? So I choose JPG and I press save. And we have settings to it like quality, resolution, color mode, and export. And as you can see, I will have every single page of my project in a JPG format. As easy as that, right? So if you don't like the quality, you can again come to export. But this time, set the quality to maximum. And export, yes, overwrite. And this time, you'll see that your photos, hold on, will hopefully have a better quality. What's wrong? Why isn't it working? Yeah, whatever. You also can export to PDF. So this is very common, right? Or EPUB. This is very common. HTML. This is also that web format that I talked about. So if I save in HTML, again, we have certain settings to images, files, etc. And this file exported, but one more problem was detected. So as you can see, I have now exported it to HTML, right? And this is a website now. So as you can see, the hyperlink works, right? So if I click on it, as you can see, it will take me to thetakeoffcollege.com. But yep, these are what we'll have as an HTML export out of InDesign. You also can have PDF exports. So this is the most common, right? Export PDF. And by pressing save, again, we have certain settings to it. Okay. Hold on. I double click. As you can see, this is what we'll have as a PDF. And this hyperlink, as you can see, still works. So if I hover it, it will take me to thetakeoffcollege.com, right? So this is basically how we export from InDesign, and this is our book, isn't it? This is in PDFs and stuff, right? But this is the printed version of it. So as you can see, we have facing pages and stuff. And this is basically all that we have with saving and exporting inside Adobe InDesign. And I also would like to talk a little bit about books. So let's say that we have this project. I'll close it. And now let's imagine that we have multiple documents, right? And we want to add them together, bring them together and create a book. That's also doable by coming to File, New Book. And first we need to specify where we want to save it. INDB, InDesign book. So I say book 1, yeah, save. And as you can see, book is nothing but a simple panel, right? So I can press this plus button and I can add InDesign projects to it. So I can add as much as I have, right? So let's say that I duplicate this. I also have another copy and I call it InDesign book 2, the takeoff book 2, yeah? And I come here and I click plus and book 2, right? And as you can see over here, it writes that from page 1 to 3, it's for this document. From page 4 to 6, it's for this document, right? And it's so cool that even if you have multiple documents and, for example, you have page numbers inside those documents, those all will be fixed, right? So you have 10 documents. The first page of every single one is number 1, right? But if you create a book, it will change. It will actually change and it will do the changes for you in design. And eventually, you can save the book by clicking this button, as you can see, right? You can save the book. You can click here and export book to EPUB. So EPUB is a very popular kind of publishing and printing kind of format when it comes to books and stuff. We also have PDF, so it has export book to PDF. If I click on it, as you can see, click save, export. So I should have, over here, as you can see, I have page 1, page 2, page 3, and then page 4, right? Page 5, page 6. So this is basically how we add up documents and bring them together and create a book. It's very easy, as you saw. And that's basically all that we have with Adobe InDesign. So right now,
Thanks for watching my video. Please like, subscribe and share.